The time has come, and after a long year of good and bad reads and a few new experiments, we can now flip through both of my 2025 reading journals. Hi, I'm Juliana, and welcome back to another video. So we are going to begin with this journal. This is the Tsuki Moonlit Spell limited edition from Notebook Therapy in their original size, and it's currently sold out, and this one carried me from January until September. I'm going to link the entire playlist for both journals in the description down below, so you can check it out if you haven't already. So opening this journal, we have the nameplate that I kept quite simple, the cover spread and the key for my star and spice ratings, which after a few months into 2025, I changed my rating system to Peach, which was created by Erin Smith, and I'm still going to use it throughout 2026. Next we have my reading goals that were 35 books, and I ended up reading 40, so that's very good and I'm quite proud of that. And then we have the maybe next, or most commonly known as to be read. And I did good progress. I read 7 out of the 12 books I put here. And next to it is the top 5 of 2025, which I already have, but I didn't print the book covers, but they are Pen Pal by G.T. Geisinger, Hexed by Emily McIntyre, God of Wrath and God of Fury by Rina Kent, and King of Envy by Anna Wong. Moving on, we have my bookshelf with the books I read, and I ended up filling it up. I always make extra books in the bookshelf just in case, and this time was actually perfect. Next we have my book bracket to choose my book of the year, which was Pen Pal, and I actually ended up doing a book matrix as well in the other journal, just to test the different methods, and I did both in my recent video, so go check it out. And we start the challenges here with the alphabet challenge and the read the rainbow, which I didn't complete, but I just do challenges to motivate me to read more, so it doesn't really matter if I complete the challenge or not. Next is the bingo, which I did quite well, I think, and I have the titles for each prompt on this little tab on the side. And the next page is the book places, which I'm not making another in 2026, I just didn't like it. The next spread is my 2025 statistics, which I did in the recent video as well, so I'm not going into detail here. Then we have the series tracker. This is a layout that works incredibly well for me, so I did it again in my 2026 reading journal. I have a few series that I'm dropping and others that I'm going to continue, so I have to update the new series tracker with that. The next spread is very similar, but it's my reading log. This is where I put some information about the books I read, like the dates I read them, the number of pages, and the star rating. Moving on, we have my favorite part of this reading journal, and one that I did again for 2026, and this is another book log, but in this catalog style. It has some information like the star and spice rating, the series or if it's a standalone, the genre, the format I read in, the year it was published, and a little review, just some phrases to capture my thoughts about the book, because the bigger review is in the monthly setups. Then I decided to be part of the Year of Goober challenge hosted by Jashi Karin, so I decided to make a spread for it. I'm going to participate in the new one, which instead of being about flowers, it's about pastries, so I'm very excited about it. And we made it to the first monthly setup, which is January. I'm not going into detail about any book because I talk about them in each video, so if you are interested in some of them, go to the playlist. For January, I read Her Soul for Revenge and Soul of a Witch by Arlie LaRue, the two last books of the Souls trilogy, and Satan's Affair by H.D. Carlton. I read on average 3 books per month, so that's pretty much what you're going to see, except for a couple of months. For February, I read Scorpion by Avina St. Graves and Karma by Lauren B.L. Both are part of the Exodus series. And then I also read Daydream by Anna Grace, the last book of the Maple Hills trilogy, which is in my top 10 of 2025. We are now in March, and I read The Danger You Know by Lily White, also in my top 10, This Book Sucks by Piper CJ, and Shatter Me by Tyra Mafi, the first of a series that I've been loving to read, and it made it to the top as well. In April, I started to use the pitch rating system, so that was a learning curve, and I read Death's Obsession by Avina St. Graves, Destroy Me by Tyra Mafi, Hexed by Emily McIntyre, my top 2 of 2025, and finally Painted Scars by Niva Altaj. Still one of my favorite spreads of this year, simple but beautiful even if I didn't love the book. Next for May we have The Sweetest Oblivion by Danielle Laurie, Fiery Little Thing by Avina St. Graves, and My Brutal Beast by Melissa Cummings. I didn't mention, but the little calendar on the cover spread of each month is just to track the days I read, not for stats, just for fun. For June, I read Scythe and Sparrow by Brian Weaver, the last book of the Ruinous Love trilogy, God of Malice by Rina Kent, the first book of my favorite series of 2025, which is The Legacy of Gods, and then I read Unravel Me and Fracture Me by Tyra Mafi. We are now in July, and for this month I read only purple books. It wasn't on purpose, it was actually a coincidence and a challenge to decorate each spread differently. So I read Gothicana by Runix, an experience for me because of the third person point of view and because I read it along on audiobook as well. And then I read God of Pain by Rina Kent and Deep End by Aldi Hazelwood. In August I changed the spreads a little, starting with the calendar on the front, which I removed and replaced with a books read overview. And this month I read King of Envy by Anna Wong, which is in my top 5, Caught Up by Navessa Allen, the second book of the Into the Darkness trilogy, and Ignite Me by Tyra Mafi. And here was where I started to do collages for my manga or manhwas, a thing I did a few years ago and I stopped because I didn't have time, so now I do it along with my books. And for that part I read Dead Man Switch, Profundis, Dead Sex Separation, and Cozy Obsession. We are now in the last month of this journal, which is September, and here I also added a new spread which compiles all my reads, including the books and the mangas/manhwas. And for those who don't know, I read mostly BL or yaoi, but sometimes I also read some classic romance as well. And this month I read Pen Pal by G.T. Geisinger, my book of the year, and Dance of Thieves Duet, which is The Dance of Thieves and Vow of Thieves by Mary E. Pearson. For the mangas/manhwas, I read Love at First Fright, A Room Without Windows, Muri Marriage, Greed, and finally Perfect Buddy. And that's it for this first journal. I had a few more spreads left in the end, but they weren't enough to last me a complete month, so I decided to get another journal, but instead of the A5 size, I decided to go for a traveler size, because I only wanted it to be enough for 3 months, from October to December, because I wanted to start a complete new journal in 2026 in a different size as well. This is the Le Soleil Collector's Edition from Notebook Therapy as well. It's currently sold out, and it got chunky. This one is actually a moon planner, so the first spreads are dedicated to manifestation and things like that. But I chose this one specifically because I wanted to match the vibe of the other one. The other was more of a moon vibe, so this one is going to be the sun. So at the start I did a mini setup, just a few spreads that I needed to continue the year and some that I wanted to test out. Kinda like these bookshelves, coloring in with the month I read the books instead of the star rating. Then I did a reading log just for the overflow that didn't fit in the other one, and the catalog as well. In here I only had to put the 4 books I read in December, as I did in the reading log because the others fit in the previous journal, and now we have October. This was my favorite month in terms of experimentation. I never participated on a monthly book challenge before. The year of Goober is very low effort and I can do it throughout the year, so this time I decided to try a monthly one, and I chose the Bewitched Book Challenge hosted by Aaron Smith. I did some extra spreads for that, so I put the rules and the points and all of that information before the book reviews, and this was the month I read more books. I read Carving for Kara by Melissa McCherry and Donna Leon, then Grave Matter by Karina Hale, To Sway a Flame by Brianna Schaefery, Leave Me Behind by Kate M. Moronova. I listened to an audio drama called The Timekeeper, and finally I read the first volume of the manhwa of the Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation. Then we entered the manga/manhwa part of the month, and I read My Rental Boyfriend, Uzagi-kun wa Ikenai Koto Shitai, I'm really sorry you had to hear that, Star and Hedgehog, Wanderlove at Midnight, and finally Master, Please Leave a Mark. And with that we are in November. This month was my lowest reading month with only 2 books, but after October I had to take a little break and slow down a little, so in here I read God of Wrath by Rina Kent and Mate by Ali Hazelwood. And then for the manhwas, I read Opposites Attract, Soft and Squishy, and Reasons for Disqualification. So not a very heavy month, but it was good in terms of ratings, since I read my favorite book of the Legacy of God series, which is God of Wrath. Moving on to the final month of this journal, December was a mix of a very good and not so good. So I actually read a good quantity with 4 books, and I loved 2 of them and the others not so much. So for December I read God of Ruin and God of Fury by Rina Kent. This last one rivals God of Wrath for the top one, but I love my Jeremy Volkov, so it still wins. Then I read my only holiday-themed book, which is Krampus Kruk by Serena Pierre, and Captivate Me by Harmony West. Then for the other part, I read the 2nd volume of the Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation. My goal is to actually buy the entire collection. Then The Position Has Changed, Blessings to the Outcasts, Torn from the Stem, or the alternative title is Even the Trash Was Once New, Lessons for the Arrogant Brother, and last but not least, So Who's on Top? Then, since I had a few spreads left, I decided to try out a different method to choose my book of the year, so I did the book matrix, which is the method I'm using for 2026, and the result was actually the same, so my book of the year still is Pen Pal by G.T. Geisinger. And that's it for this journal. I'm actually going to use the rest of the empty spreads to do collages for the series I completed in 2025. So if you are interested in seeing that, subscribe because I'm showing you these spreads in my January reads. And with that, I'll see you on the next one. Bye!